Welcome back, bookworms and listeners. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to create a character using Demiplane, and then we'll talk about some other options you have. On demiplane.com, we're going to go to characters. Then we're going to go to create character in the top right, and we're going to come down and select Cosmere because, again, we're making a Stormlight character for the Cosmere RPG. If you have a GM that purchased the GM upgrade from the Kickstarter or has purchased the virtual tabletop, he should he or she should be able to let you access the information when you sign up to make an account on Demiplane. It'll link to the virtual tabletop, Roll20, if you are using Roll20 in Roll20, if you join that game that your GM set up, you should be able to access that GM's compendium if they have set it up like that. However, I'm not sure about the specifics of that, so we are just going to focus on you have access to the character creator on demiplane.com, and we are going to talk about the mechanics that you need to pay attention to. We're going to talk about how you're going to name your character. We're going to talk about what you want your character to be. We're going to talk about their backstory. We're going to talk about what makes sense, how to keep it simple. The first thing that I really love about this character builder is that they have portraits for you to choose from, including some that look exactly like Kaladin, which is fine, or you can upload a portrait yourself. They have a welcome to Roshar page. They point out it's collaborating on a story. Your GM should let you know the general theme of your adventure. If you're going to be playing a heist, you might want to think about being an agent, being a leader, or maybe a scholar that deals with the occult, something like that. That's going to be a very different campaign than your GM telling you you are going to be heroes, you are going to lead Radiance into battle when you get to that point. You need to play a hero that is well versed in combat. Now, go watch Invested in the Cosmere's videos on the Stormlight World Guide and understand that, and I believe he's done the player handbook, they have done an excellent job of fleshing out and balancing the character uh, paths that you can take. So there's no wrong answer here. That's the first thing I want to get across. There is no wrong answer here. You can be whatever you want to be from the Stormlight Archive. You can figure out a way to make it happen and work with your GM if you need to fudge things here and there, if they use the rule of cool. So many options. Let's get into it. Character name. What do I want my character name to be? Well, if you're new to the Stormlight Archive, or if you want to play something authentic, play a character that's authentically named, I would actually suggest going first to Origins, and then you're going to if you want if you want to play a human, select human. If you want to play a singer, select singer. I'm going to show you why I came to Origins first before making a name. I selected human, so now I get to choose my culture. Here, they have every culture that is on Roshar, plus Wayfarer, which could be part of the World Hoppers, right? So if you're wanting that kind of little, maybe bigger Cosmere connection going on with your character, maybe choose Wayfarer. But let's take Herdagian, okay? The reason I came here is they have a list of traditional Herdagian names, right? And they have this for each culture. So if I am making a character for the first time and I don't want to go off the deep end, I want to stay within the Cosmere, I would go here. Let's make an Alethi And let's look for a name that stands out for, and maybe we'll even have the name influence what the character becomes. So we have Tellus standing out to me and Selith. Selith could be feminine or male. A lot of these could be. I think we're going to go with Valoran. I like the name Valoran. Okay, so Valoran, and we're going to start at level one. Most campaigns and adventures are going to start at level one. Your GM will tell you otherwise. And we're going to select the Alethi. I believe that was this character, just to get things going. Um, in the past, I've hand-drawn portraits for my characters, and it adds a really nice touch. Let's talk about the options here. So we went with Alethi. I'm going to select Alethi. Now, you can choose more than one, okay? Which immediately adds depth to your character's backstory. Now, if you're wanting to play something realistic, it's unlikely maybe that you have both Shin and Alethi ancestry. They are from the opposite sides of Roshar. The Shin don't really come out of Shinovar, but maybe you have Alethi and Veden ancestry. Okay. Um, that Vedenar and Alethkar, much closer. Um, their people remain cordial. So I would really read into each of these cultures if you're unsure. Another few combinations that make a lot of sense. Herdasian with Unkalaki, Herdasian with Veden, Unkalaki with Veden. And that's because in world, it seems that anybody that has red hair, and maybe not the Herdasians, but the Unkalaki and Veden consider themselves cousin cultures because of their red hair. They think that that came from a specific lineage. Uh, Characters in the books call each other relatives because of that. Carbranthian, they're at the beginning of the Stormlight Archive Way of Kings. Shallan mentions that Carbranth is where a lot of people from all over Roshar can be found. They're very exotic. So it would make sense that if you chose Carbranthian, you could really go with any other culture as a background. Now, you don't, I'm talking about this in terms of like DNA, but you could also be a Thalen who spent a lot of time in Carbranth. So you know those two things. Not that you have that ancestry, it's just the culture, right? I think for my personal interest, we're going to also select Veden. Maybe my character spent a lot of time right on the edge of the border of Alethkar and Vedenar. Maybe he spent time in both countries. Or perhaps his mother was from Vedenar, father was from Alethkar, or other way around. Now, starting path. We have six options, and a big draw for this setting is that you get to play a Radiant at some point. That starts at level two. If you are starting at level one with your adventure or campaign, you're not going to be a Radiant right off the bat. That's fine. What that means is that your character has backstory regardless of what you do, right? When if you're starting at level 3 and you're choosing to already start as a Radiant, when you choose your level 1 options, you still don't get to choose Radiant. You have to choose one of these paths. The common example is Kaladin from the books is both a leader and at one point he's also a warrior and a surgeon, right? So he's more than one of these things. That provides interest for you creating your character because you could choose Envoy to start, I mentioned my character maybe spent a lot of time at the border of Alethkar and Vedenar. Maybe at this point in their life, they actually are a diplomat from Alethkar to Vedenar. So envoy would make a lot of sense. But maybe two or three levels into the campaign, maybe the GM has thrown a lot of different combat encounters or made it really difficult to survive. So my character has decided, well, somebody's got to lead. I'm going to do it. Or maybe my skills as an envoy aren't working out. I'm going to start specializing as a hunter so that my group can survive. You don't have to go Radiant, is what I'm trying to say. You can start Envoy, then take some points in Envoy, and then go to Leader, take some points in Leader, and so on. I am looking forward to the day where I get to create a character that isn't going to be a Radiant and see what kind of facets that brings to the role play, to the combat, to the skill, to the endeavors. So I think I am going to choose Envoy because right now at this moment, that's the thing that I know the least about. So the Envoy path presents three specialties: Diplomat, Faithful, and Mentor. And each of the paths, Agent, Envoy, Hunter, Leader, Scholar, and Warrior, each have three different specialties. The agent has investigator, spy, and thief. The hunter has archer, assassin, and tracker. The leader has champion, officer, and politico. Scholar has artifabrian, strategist, and surgeon. And the warrior has duelist, shard bearer, or soldier. The interesting thing, I believe, is that if you choose envoy and you start off with diplomat, you can still choose to take things in other envoy specialties as long as you follow the path. So let's select this path. Um, it gives very clear building an envoy uh, suggestions on how to make a character useful. So let's go real quick into min-maxing. Min-maxing sucks the fun out of games that are not designed specifically for that. And what I mean is, if you have a group of six people, four of them really want roleplay, one of them has no idea what's going on, and the sixth is a min-maxer, which means you optimize every single stat, every single option for your character just to succeed in very specific scenarios, most likely combat. What happens is you now obsess about choosing what the exact best combination of skills and traits are. If that's what you want to do, that is perfectly fine. Your GM will hopefully adjust to if your character is really, really, really good at combat and the combat encounters are not taking the length that they should. I'm going to say should because of course it's all a game, right? It's for fun. If this is what's fun for you, if min-maxing is what's fun for you, cool. I said it sucks the fun out of the game. That's because when I did it, it sucked the fun out of the game for me. That's just a feeling I had. If it's fun for you, it's fun for you. It can also suck the game fun out of the game for other people because if they're feeling like their character is not useful in a combat situation and the group gravitates towards combat situations, then they're not going to have a good time with maybe their envoy who doesn't have very much in combat. I think from reading what's going on here that Brotherwise has done an excellent job of making this game not combat focused. It could be. I've played through combat scenarios in the alpha test that were intense. However, the group that I was playing with, after we'd matured from being teenagers to being near 30-year-olds, almost all of the players went, I really wish that there had been more role playing. I've gone off on a tangent, but I think Brotherwise has done a really good job of making sure this game is not necessarily combat focused. And what that means is that you don't need to min-max. You don't need to choose what is the absolute best option for your character. You get to choose what's interesting to you. Brandon Sanderson, time and time again, in his writing lectures, in his podcast, in his speeches, has said when you have a magic system, when you have these gods that can do anything, but they can't really do anything, and it's interesting what they can't do, right? And what that means is that when they come across a situation, when you have a character that is intensely powerful and they come across a situation that they can't deal with using their normal modus operandi, they have to come up with a different way of dealing with it. And that creates tension. And that is what makes games interesting. That's what makes stories interesting. So I implore you, as you're making your character, choose what seems interesting, not what seems to maximize your character's ability to deal damage or control others or whatever it is that you were min-maxing for. You want somebody that can role play. You want a character that has some depth of role playing, probably some combat skills, which I've looked at all the paths, I think, or most of the paths. Most of the paths do have things they can do in combat. And you want skills. You're going to get the skills for the endeavors. You're definitely going to get the skills, right? Um, but you want a well-rounded character. You want flaws that your GM can use to make things interesting for your game. If it was just combat, throw your characters against a bunch of Parshendi over and over, that would be so boring eventually. If that's what you want, you can definitely find people that want that, and you can have the time of your life. So let's get back to the on building an envoy. They say it's a good idea to prioritize presence and willpower. As a character who is both Alethi and Veden, I think I'm going to prioritize presence unless some of these path traits, what do they call these? Um, let's see. I'm going to select path and go from there. Okay. Right. Attributes. Sorry, attributes. Skills. That's what I wanted. No, it's not. Talent. They call them talents. Thank you. Jeez. Okay. There are a bunch of talents that we can choose as we level up. I'm going to look at presence as my main attribute unless some of those talents really pull me towards willpower, okay? So as an envoy, we get rousing presence. When when you use this with an activation of one, with a gesture, a facial expression, or a few scant words, you inspire others to excel. Choose an ally you can influence. That means that they're not out of sight, out of earshot. They aren't in a state where they cannot understand you. They become determined. Uh, that means when they fail a test, they can add an opportunity to the result. After that happens, they remove the determined condition. And that stays on until the scene ends. That's great. This is for somebody who really likes to support other people. I know a lot of people in games, especially when they get to the role playing aspect of it, this is a perfect way of putting role playing into combat. Your warrior friend who really likes combat, they're feeling down, they're down in their HP, they're taking the brunt of the hits. Your envoy helps them be determined with a few scant words. Maybe uh, they touch on the goal of the warrior, and that reinvigorates the warrior. This is so cool. This is a great little. This feels very much like a. Oh, what's it from D&D? Why am I blinking? You know what? Forget I said that. Okay, next you're going to choose your attributes. You get 12 points. You get 12 points to put in, and I believe you can't go above 3 to start out. On Roshar, most humans and singers don't have attributes above 2. However, player characters are extraordinary, even at first level, and as you gain levels, you can increase your attributes as high as 5. So, uh, now, this is great on the Demiplane character creator. They have the suggested attributes for your path. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3. Yep, 3 is the max. I'm going to put 3 into presence. And then I'm going to say, being Alethi and Veden, I'm going to have learned a ton. Why did that? Oh, okay. It can bug, uh, and for a brief moment you can go above 5. Let me see if it goes above 5. Nope. Oh, huh. I thought you couldn't go above. Well, now it's not letting me go above 3. Okay, that might be a bug. I'm not really sure. If somebody knows if you can go above 3 at first level, let me know. But I'm pretty sure you can't. I'm also going to say my awareness is at 2 because Alethi, um, they're very warlike culture or war-centric culture. So maybe something in the past happened that made me a little bit afraid of being caught unaware. So I'm going to have increased awareness. Um, that means I have chosen 8 of 12. I'm going to put 2 in willpower just to make my envoy not min-maxed. Maybe my character has just a lower willpower than another envoy might. And I'm going to say, as an Alethi, war culture, and maybe a lot of travel. Maybe my character spent a lot of time, um, maybe jogging, doing some speedy activities, represents your finesse and overall alacrity. I'm also going to think of this as maybe some mental alacrity, maybe some mental alacrity. Okay, now we're going to choose skills. It also has suggested skills for the envoy to take. And it looks like because I chose diplomat, I might have gotten a point in discipline already. I think that's how that works. Uh, I'm going to increase this to 5. Nope, you can't go above +4 to start out. Okay, can't go above +4 to start out. And that +4 is really it's 2, right? You can't go above 2 to start out. But then you add your willpower modifier, and you add the modifier that it says underneath each of these. As Alethi and Veden, I'm definitely going to um, be taking lore because both of those cultures rich in lore. Carbaranth is not that far away. Makes a lot of sense. Deduction. Okay, I only have one more point to spend. Um, what do I want? Oh, shoosh. Shoosh. Storms. Okay, I'm gonna take a point off of that. I'm gonna save that point there. I'm actually going to put some down here into spiritual skills. Um, Actually, I don't want my character to be deceptive. So I'm going to put it into perception. Okay. This is going to create some scenarios where maybe it would have been really useful for me to be deceptive, and I still could be, with the +3 bonus or +3 modifier from presence, I could be, but I don't want my character to be deceptive. I want them to be really genuine. And that might cause tension in the group if somebody's like, well, no, we should lie about this. And I'm going to go, well, no, that's not what I'm going to do as a character, like what my character would do. That creates a healthy form of tension within the group. If it becomes an issue where people are sniping at each other, blaming each other for things that have gone wrong, but not in like oh, remember that one time where we tried to deceive the white spines and it didn't work because they're dumb animals. Ha ha ha. That's different than your character keeps screwing up. You need to stop doing what you're doing. Obviously one of those is fun, the other one's not fun. One of those is not toxic, one of those is toxic. Then we're going to get to choose our expertises. Okay. I'm going to look at right. So we have cultural expertise in Alethi and Veden, and we get to choose three more. I'm going to say that I have expertise in uniform because the Alethi culture, and I am also going to say that I have. This would be interesting to take Wayfarer, but I think I'll see what other options we have here. Specialists. What are we specialist in? Nope, none of that. And you can work with your GM to add custom expertises. So, utility expertise in topics such as animal care, armor crafting, engineering, equipment crafting, history, military strategy, religion, riding horses, or weapon crafting. So, I'm going to put in that my character is going to be an expert at religion. Um, and I think that's all I need to do there. So 1, 1. And let's put a weapon because it's a Lethe. And let's do my character is going to be probably a low-ranking light eyes in the Alethi culture. So let's go for the side sword, and that's three selections. Okay, now as a human, we get a bonus talent. We could select from Envoy, or we could add a new path. What do we already have? Um, or what options can we choose? We can choose. So from the left here, it is a tree where you have to take the first option on the tree before you can take any more down here. I would spend some time looking at this for any of the characters that you are interested in doing, because it's these later ones, when you get up into higher levels, that may make a big difference in how you role play, how the group responds to things. Um, so like Okay, we could do customary garb, which is while you're wearing presentable armor, your physical and spiritual defense is increased by 2. That could be really useful for a character that's not necessarily combat focused, but is aware of their surroundings and is a little worried about being attacked. That makes a lot of sense. And if I went with customary garb later, I could spend 1 focus to increase target's defenses by 2. I can inspire other people to add opportunity tests, which, if you're new to the Cosmere RPG, you're not sure what an opportunity test is yet, um, or sorry, an opportunity. That's when you roll the uh, plot die, I believe. Yes. Um, Oh, that just straight adds an opportunity, not lets you roll uh the plot die. It just adds an opportunity. That could be really, really useful in changing the situation. Um, Now, because of the way that the tables work, we could instead choose Galvanize to start out, and we could still get Inspired Zeal, but then we couldn't get Sage Counsel unless we went from Customary Garb first. And I think the way that these are laid out in the handbook show that cross connection between these. Now, that's for the faithful. I said that I wanted to be a diplomat. So then collected straight up increases your cognitive and spiritual defenses by two. What does green check mean? I think that means we can take it. Yes, we can take it. The red means that we can't take it yet. Steadfast challenge. We could take steadfast challenge, spend one focus to make a discipline test against the spiritual defense of an enemy you can influence. That's interesting. They become disoriented and gain disadvantage. That could be really useful. And that could be useful not only in combat, but also in RPGs or in role playing. This is an RPG. It could be useful in role playing. So I think I'm going to select that. And then, okay, the next part of this is choosing your equipment. You get to choose your starting kit. Let's go here and we are going to say that yep, we if we choose the courtier kit, which makes a lot of sense for the diplomat, we do get to choose a side sword, great sword, long sword, or longbow. I did choose side sword earlier. Quite a few marks, supported by a patron. I'm going to select the courier kit. This gives us options. I'm going to select the side sword. I'm going to 4d20 marks. Do we get to roll for that? Okay. At this point, I would roll a d20 4 times, add that all up. Let's see. What is the average there? The halfway point is 44, 42. I think it's 42. I'm going to say 42 marks. But just roll your d20. Patron details. This is when you really need to work with your GM on what patrons are available. I'm going to go with House Sabarial because that is somebody I know and could lead to interesting times later on in the RPG. And then I'm going to confirm that. Then it says your story. Choose your purpose and obstacle. Now, this is where the background of your character really comes into play. Your purpose is your core need. This is how you will act. This is how your character is going to act in the game, right? Your character is likely unaware of this purpose, but you as the player know it. So for my character, I'm going to choose one of these example purposes. You can also work with your GM to come up with more. Um, and because my character is has an expertise in religion and is also a diplomat, I'm going to go for seek truth. And then an obstacle. Um, what stands in the way of my purpose time and time again? Pride, impulsiveness, greed. Um, I'm going to say this is going to be so dumb. I'm going to say forgetfulness. Those of you with ADHD will understand. Okay. Or those with bad memory will understand. Okay, choose your goal. This is how you will become a radiant, potentially. If your goal matches that of a radiant order and your GM sees you succeeding at that goal, that's how you become a radiant. Okay? So Um, at least from what I understand. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Should definitely discuss it with your GM. Um, I'm going to say that um, there were some I'm going to recover a set of religious texts stolen from a Veden temple um, under my watch. Okay. And I think that will give a simple way for the GM to incorporate that into any story, but it's also not something unachievable, right? Like somebody steals a set of texts, they're going to try to pawn them. They're not getting very far with a set of texts. And it would be simple to incorporate that into how I deal with other characters. Come across somebody on the road, hey, have you seen somebody matching this description? And the GM can say yes or no, right? Um, and then you get to tell your story. And this is a lot of information that you get to come up with. So let's say um, we are going, let's go through it. Occupation. Um, I uh, I counsel, or I'm going to be a counselor to the Vorin, or I guess I should have said Vorin Church, Vorin Temple. Um, okay, I'm going to be a counselor to Vorin um, priests. Are they priests? Something like that. So my character goes around and helps them understand the history of the religion. Um, I think that's interesting. Relationships. Let's say um, I've got a I've got a rival diplomat from from Vedenar that disagrees with me on some core tenets. How do you spell tenets? Is that tenets? Tenets? Tenets. Tenets of Vornism. Uh, and they try to undermine my counsel to the Voron church. And then say a uh, I've got a woman I'm courting, and let's call her Tala because that's my wife's name, who is a higher ranking light eyes. And I've got a best friend who hasn't talked to me in a long time because they went to the Shattered Plains at the start of the um, war with the Parshendi. Okay, loyalties. I am loyal to Alethkar, of Orange Church. Um, I'm also going to be loyal to the High Prince Sedvariel, right? He's my patron. Personality, my character's personality. Genuine as often as possible. Uh, Goofy when not talking about religion, forgetful if the task is not right in front of his eyes. Appearance, average, Alethi height. Let's go for purple eye, light purple eyes, dark tan skin because he's a no, yeah, dark tan skin because he's Alethi. Um, and then we'll say that he has well kept long brown hair that he often wears in a bun. Possible radiant order. Truth Watcher, Edge Dancer, um, maybe even Dustbringer. That I know Dustbringer's a little more out there for those of you who know, but control over oneself, control over forgetfulness, control about um, what he reveals to other people could be a way to go. And then after that, you go to advancement. It gives you a sheet that tells you what you get at each rank, um, or at each level. These tiers over here are the tiers of play. So campaigns and adventures could say like tier 1 through 3, or it's a tier 3 adventure. That means you're going to want characters between level 11 and 15. If this turns into a thing where there's like an adventure league like D&D, that's where you go in. If you make a character at that level and you can play with other people in tier 3, and everybody's about the same power level. It's very useful. And then after that, we get to see our character sheet. And this is great. Um, because you can, on Demiplane, you get to choose what is selected. You get recovery dice, all of this great stuff, goals and rewards right here. Yeah, so goals, if I make um, progress towards the goal, then I get to check these boxes. And again, that is how you're going to advance to become a Radiant starting at level 2. Now, I am going to now show you a character that one of the people that will be playing in my campaign and adventure that we'll be posting on this channel came up with, and we're going to walk through why I think it's a great character. So give me just a moment, and we're back. So here's the character that Tyler Tarter, author, YouTuber, link right here, up in the corner to his channel. Go check him out. This is the character that he came up with. Now, he's got first and last name Rand Bilalin. I believe that's how I would say it. Uh, is great. Great name. I'm. We're going to check out. Let me close out of that. We're going to check out what he's got going on here. So, he made a human warrior. Let's go check out his details real quick. So, his purpose is to prove himself worthy of his family legacy. With mixed heritage, he feels out of place wherever he is. That's such good role playing um, backstory. That's going to generate a lot of different ways that he can talk about it. Under expertises, you see he has Unkalaki and Alethi, and then very weapon or very warrior based uh, options there. Relationships. He says he tends to be a loner that tries to fit in. That is so much better than just being a lone wolf, right? We all know those edge lords that their character was an orphan from the time that they were born because demons came and killed their village, everybody except them, and then they were raised by wolves, and so they're a lone wolf. That's been overdone. This loner that tries to fit in. Active role playing. Oh my God, that is amazing. Okay? Like he had like that. If we go over here to goals and rewards, what is prove myself in battle to be known as a hero and if possible gain shards. Well, guess what? As a GM, I'm gonna look at that detail. He tends to be a loner that tries to fit in. That is obviously a secret goal, right? That is something that I can look at and go, is he actively fitting in? There is a character arc there, right? At the beginning, he's trying to fit in. At the end, does he fit in? Does he? Such good role-playing option. Loyalties. He has found a few high princes he likes to work for, but isn't truly loyal to anyone. Again, that presents a lot of good options for both combat encounters, role-playing endeavors. It's not that he's going to be deceptive or that he's going to be wishy-washy on what his character does. It's more that if a NPC that the GM is running starts doing things that this character doesn't like, we already know that he isn't going to stand by them no matter what. He's not necessarily loyal to them. Such a good choice. Personality. And I know this could be hard to see, so let me zoom in here. There we go. Personality. He can be cold and sullen, but seems to always know the right thing to say when he does speak. He is always willing to step in if someone is in need, though. Now, there's an interesting thing you can do with this. It says he always knows the right thing to say when he does speak. A lot of times people get hung up on trying to choose the actual right words to say in a role-playing scenario. There's a cheat to this. Instead of saying what your character would say and getting caught up on what do you say to actually convince the guard to let you in, what you can do as a player, if your GM allows it, which I don't see why they wouldn't, if they have an issue with it, send them to this video. I can talk with them. You can simply say, my character says the correct thing that allows the guard to let us in the gate. Do you see the difference there? You, as a human player in this real world, don't have to come up with the exact right phrase for a guard that is made up in a group storytelling. Um, who knows what exactly that guard wants to hear, except the GM maybe. But if you go, my character says the right thing to let the guard let us in the gate, that takes the guesswork out of it. That then becomes a skill test that the GM can say, hey, roll persuasion. It's not, if you say the wrong thing and the GM goes, no, he's not going to let you in, that takes the fun out of it, right? That's not what you want. You want to get in the gate. So this is brilliant. This is a great example for me to bring that up. And then he is always willing to step in if someone is in need, though. That is going to create tension. As a GM, I can look at that and go, okay, if I want this character to shine in this moment, then I'm going to put somebody in need, and this character is going to step up, and I am going to use that tension to make the group feel something. And that's what this is about, right? We're wanting to feel something. We're wanting to feel connection. We're wanting to feel emotions. We're wanting to role play together. He's considered appearance. He's considered tall for an Alethi with broad shoulders and a scar-covered face and arms. Brilliant, recognizable, easy peasy. Possible radiant order, Stone Ward. Love it. He's there for somebody in need. That's exactly what we want to see. Now, uh, we got he maxed out strength and speed. His willpower and awareness are up. He's got heavy athletics. He's got heavy weaponry. He's got intimidation. He's got a role-playing skill here. That obviously that can help in combat, but intimidation and leadership are going to stand out also in role playing. Let's see what he took: hammer, shield, and unarmed attack. Those are the exact same expertises he has, except unarmed attack. Everybody gets unarmed attack, and he gets vigilant stance as his starting talent. While in this stance, reduce the focus cost of dodge and reactive strike reactions by one. Whoa. That is really cool. If you go over to invested in the Cosmere, I'm sure there's some YouTube video that talks about reactive strike. You get to use your reaction, but you have to spend focus to do it so that it's not every single time somebody moves away from you, or you move away from somebody, they get a free hit on you. That really inhibits combat fun. It inhibits the fun of combat. This reduces that focus cost, which means that Tyler's character, Ran, is going to be able to use more focus during the combat. That's such a great choice for him. And then let's look at goals again. His purpose: to prove myself worthy of my family legacy. An obstacle with mixed heritage. He feels out of place wherever he is. Brilliant. So as a GM, I'd go to Tyler and I'd say, hey, tell me what your family legacy is that you're trying to prove yourself worthy of. And then um, and then it's probably related to this goals, right? To the goal here. Prove myself in battle to be known as a hero and if possible gain shards. Makes sense. Clear-cut goal. Love it. Equipment, we see so he probably went through and purchased um, items. We didn't do that when I created the diplomat, and that's fine. And then on Demiplane, there is a journal entry where you can um, put information for your character from the adventures you're doing. This is great. Tyler, such a great character. Thank you for letting me show this on my channel. We went through how to create a character. Um, if you have the digital files, a lot of this is in the handbook. Beware if you haven't read all of the Stormlight books that the World Guide does spoil a lot of what happens in Wind and Truth, historically speaking. Um, and yeah, put anything in the comments, like and subscribe. Don't put anything in the comments. If you have questions about this, I'd love to hear your character ideas for the Cosmere RPG. There's a lot of options here. What's really nice is that Brandon Sanderson has given us a really fleshed out world. The Brotherwise team has given us a world guide and really good constraints to work within to give us a lot of depth without overwhelming us with option after option after option. So I would love to hear your character ideas in the comments. Like and subscribe. We'll be doing an actual play starting sometime in August or September. Hope to see you with it. Life before death, strength before weakness, and journey before destination.